Hey guys, it's Victoria and welcome back to FemmeHead. Today I'm going to do a little 3-month update on not necessarily Lincoln, but more like me and like life in general. Just kind of like I made it through the 4th trimester. Let's talk about some things. So about a month ago, I shared on my Instagram story that I was going to be making this video and wanted to know what you guys wanted answered, and so I got a lot of good questions, and so I kind of have separated them into categories, and I'm just gonna make the video by going through and answering your questions. Let's start with postpartum recovery. A few wanted to know how that compared to my first birth with Theo. I will link both of the birth stories down below, but the short story of it, Theo, my first, was 16 hours of labor, ended up getting an epidural. I don't know how long I pushed, but I had a 3rd, almost 4th degree tear with him, and it wasn't like a terrible recovery, but those first 2 weeks were just like very sensitive and hard because I had tore. With Lincoln, it was 3 hours start to finish. Didn't have time for an epidural even though I really wanted one. I had like a couple stitches, so I think I was like a 1st or 2nd degree tear. That day, like right after I'd given birth to him, I was like, this is the weirdest thing because I do not feel like I just pushed a baby out of my vagina right now. Like, it does not feel like it down there. It felt normal, and I kept saying like, I feel better today than I did yesterday when I was still pregnant. So it was a much different recovery because with Theo, like I was sore, my muscles were sore, my perineum and my vagina were just like not a wreck, but like super tender, sensitive, and it took like 2 weeks to feel not normal, but like not in pain where I had to keep up on my like pain medication. So my recovery was completely different between the two. Breastfeeding. Lincoln eats every 2 to 3 hours. I would say it's more like 2.5 to 3 hours. During the day, I don't let him go past 3 hours. And then at night, I don't wake him up and I let him set the schedule at night. And right now he's waking up twice. Anywhere the first time between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. And then the second time like 4 or 5 hours from that first wake up. I'm completely happy with that. I don't really have the energy right now to stretch how far he goes at night between feeds like I did with Theo, because I'm happy with where it's at. I feel rested enough during the day, and I don't want to get him to this great spot and then hit the 4-month sleep regression and lose all that hard work like I did with Theo. So I'm just letting it, I'm going with the flow on it, and it's working out. But obviously if he was like having terrible nights, I would work on his nights. As I took the baby gates off of the stairs because he doesn't need those on the stairs anymore, and put the baby gates on the living room. So there's the 2 entrances to the living room, and so when I know that I'm going to be in there feeding Lincoln, I will just lock the baby gates and he's contained to that room so I can watch him. The whole house is pretty baby proof, but it's not he's gonna be somewhere else destroying it. Like, I can watch what he's doing, so that has really helped. If he's like getting fussy or something, I'll give him snacks while I'm breastfeeding, or I'll like put something on the TV while I'm breastfeeding so he's not like climbing all over me or getting super pissed or something. For the most part, I breastfeed. Every now and then he gets in like a weird mood where he like refuses to breastfeed, either like that feed or for like an entire day. So I'll just pump and then he will drink from a bottle, thankfully. The next questions are about sleep. So Lincoln sleeps in his crib in our room. I did like a nursery in the master bedroom tour situation. So the first couple weeks, Lincoln would just wake up all the time. He would go like 2 hours between feeds. And that's not very long when it takes them like 30 to 60 minutes to eat. And then by the time you put them back down, you don't have enough time to like fall asleep yourself and get any sort of like amount of sleep. But there's this weird sort of like adrenaline that you run off those first couple of weeks that somehow get you through it. It's amazing what you can do sleep deprived when you have a newborn. I knew it was all just temporary, so it's like, just get through this, go to sleep early. So whenever I would get Lincoln down to sleep, that's when I would go to sleep because you don't know what the night holds. Now that I have like a better rein on nights and I know like, okay, he's not gonna be up every 2 hours, he's gonna wake up twice, and I like have a better grasp on like how the night's gonna go, then I've been able to stay up later, spend time with Michael, and that's been really nice because like those first couple weeks or like month or so, whatever it is, when you have to go to bed at 7 p.m. and you know they don't get home from work until 5, and then it's just like a rush to like get everyone fed, get everyone asleep, and then it's like peace out, I need to go to bed too. It's just like you don't see each other, so it's nice to actually get to spend time with Michael again. They're in separate rooms right now. Lincoln is in our room with us and Theo has his own room. At some point, once Lincoln is sleeping through the nights pretty consistently, we're going to transition him into the room with Theo, and they're going to share a room. But I want Lincoln to be like sleeping through the night, so it's not going to impact Theo. When Lincoln wakes up and if he's crying at night or whatever, that doesn't wake him up. If Theo's in his room crying, that doesn't wake Lincoln up. I highly recommend sound machines if you don't already have them. Both rooms are dark when they're napping or sleeping. There's a sound machine. I try to keep it relatively cool. Theo is almost 2 years old and he takes one nap a day from like noon to 2. And I would say like once or twice a week, their naps line up. And so Lincoln will be napping during Theo's nap. Lincoln takes 4 naps a day. And so it's just like luck and like when he woke up for the day, whether he's gonna nap the same time Theo's napping like he is right now. And so it's always so nice when they nap at the same time, because some days it just overlaps by like 20 minutes and so you don't really get a break. Lincoln's definitely on a schedule, but he's the one that determines his own schedule by like when he wakes up, how long he sleeps, when he wants to eat and that sort of stuff. But he does have a pretty consistent schedule of like, I know about like, okay, this long until he's gonna eat again. I know this long until he needs to go down for a nap, but it's a lucky day when their naps line up. Do you get emotional from lack of sleep? Hell yeah. Those first few months, your hormones are just all over the place as it is. You're not sleeping well. I mean, there's just so much going on. You're learning how to take care of a new human that has, you know, different likes and dislikes than your other child, and what worked with your first might not work with them. And Lincoln went from just sleeping all the time, as they do like that first week and a half, to being awake for like an hour and a half. And so I thought he would like transition into like having a slightly longer wake window. And so I thought maybe like he'd be up total for like 45 minutes. So 45 minutes would come and I would think he would like need to go down for a nap. But then I would spend 45 minutes trying to get him down for a nap and get so frustrated with him. Like, why won't you just go to sleep? Like, you should be sleeping now. His wake window is an hour and a half. And when you can figure out your kid's wake windows, it helps so much, because like sometimes I'm able to just swaddle him, put his pacifier in, put him in his crib, and he will conk out by himself. Sometimes he needs a little help and he's like to be rocked or bounced. But like when you can figure out the wake windows, that I know it's usually like an hour 20, an hour 30 that he needs to be awake from like when he first wakes up and then he eats, and then he'll go back to sleep so much easier. So that's so helpful to figure out their wake windows. I felt like I was more emotional, like sad, mourning the loss of my like previous life when I had Theo, and this time I felt like I got frustrated and not sad. I would just get frustrated, mainly like if Theo was just like screaming and it's like, dude, I just need you to calm down for 2 minutes so I can like finish feeding Lincoln, or I can do this. And so you definitely have to juggle, like you can't always like put the baby first. Like if it's possible, sometimes the toddler needs to be taken care of first before the baby. And so someone put it as like triaging, why can't I say that? So it's like, whose needs are more dire in this moment? Or like, can I get Theo a snack real quick and then feed Lincoln, even though Lincoln's also screaming? And so what's quickest, or who needs it most? And you just kind of, you figure out that balance. And also, you know that like crying isn't gonna kill either one of them. Tips on expectations for your partner, communicating needs, sharing responsibilities, and asking, did Michael take any time off? He really didn't take too much time off. He owns his own business, and so it's not like he can just use sick days or time off or anything like that. Like his company still needs to run and happen. So he just would work shorter days, but he still had to go in the office. He still had to get stuff done. And then I would say like the biggest thing you can do is just like communicate your needs and like not expect them to know, especially when it's your first. With Theo, I just like consistently made the mistake of thinking that I could do it all myself. And yeah, I could do it all myself, but that didn't mean that like I didn't suffer from that, of it being frustrated or tired or just overwhelmed. And so instead of like letting him try to soothe him or letting him do something, I just like, I can do it quicker because I know how to soothe him quicker, or I know how to get him down for a nap quicker, or this, that, or anything. And it's just like, no, you have to let your partner figure out their own ways to like soothe and comfort your child. Otherwise, you're just setting them up for failure as well. And also, as like Theo has gotten older, I have like made sure that Theo knows that he can go to dad if he needs like a snack open, or he can go to dad if he needs something. Like he doesn't always have to come to mom. And so he will go and like ask Michael for stuff, or like want to play with Michael. And so I think not trying to do everything yourself. You're all just kind of figuring out at the same time, but just being very open of like, this is what I think I'm gonna need. And then when it comes time, it's like, oh no, I have a better grasp on things, or like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, I need you to help out more with like cooking dinner, this, that, or anything. And Michael has been really great since Lincoln's come, just like taking on even more responsibility with like Theo, cooking meals, cleaning up, like all sorts of stuff, voicing it and having those conversations. And yeah, just good communication. Postpartum emotions. Did you go through mood swings? If so, how to realize it's happening and how to deal with it? And then how did it feel the second time knowing how hard it might be ahead of time? I felt like it was more of an emotional struggle for me after I had Theo than it was with Lincoln. I don't know, I just felt so much more capable this time because I had already gone through that big life change of becoming a mother and not having the freedom, not having the time. Like, going through that big identity shift was hard with Theo, but I had already gone through it. I already taken the time when Theo was around a year old to figure out the best schedule for work, the best schedule for like cleaning, meal planning, self-care, making time for myself, making time for like me and Michael, making time for Theo. Like, I found a good balance. I had these like systems, routines, and habits in place. And although I had to like scale back and not do as much when Lincoln was first here, I have slowly been able to start incorporating those different like schedules and routines and habits back in because they just fit well with where I'm at in life right now with 2 little kids. I really try to prepare mentally of like, how can I set myself up for success if it just like shit hits the fan and it's super hard and like I'm, you know, barely staying afloat with 2 kids. Like, how can I best prepare myself? And so I prepared for like the worst case scenario, and I got probably the best case scenario. And one of the hardest parts that I was anticipating it, was when I was in the hospital and not seeing Theo for 2 days. Like, that is the longest stretch of time I've been apart from him by like a long shot. Like, we have been like this because of COVID and just because of like our lifestyle and everything. So I felt this like deep guilt for not being with Theo, for like being separate from him for that long. But it did help because Michael came home each night to like put him down, to spend time with him before bed, eat dinner with him. And so we had like a little bit of normalcy, and he spent his day with his grandparents. But I just felt so sad and guilty while I was in the hospital. I just wanted to go home so bad so I could like be with him. But I had to stay in the hospital because I had group B strep and I didn't have time to get the antibiotics and like all this sort of stuff. But it ended up being fine. And like, looking back, I know that was like baby blues. And thankfully beyond that, I didn't have any like extreme emotions. I mean, there were plenty of times where I would just cry when I was just really frustrated and overwhelmed. Like, if they were both screaming and like I didn't have enough hands, I was just like, this is really hard. I think there was one time where like Theo was just being a bear and he was like scratching and hitting me, and like Lincoln was crying, and I was just like, why are you doing this to me, buddy? And yeah, so there's been a few times of like crying in the shower or just crying when everyone else is crying. It always helps to cry, I think. There are days where it's like, I cannot wait till nap time, or I cannot wait till bedtime. And that doesn't mean you don't love your kids, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't have had kids. It's just like, sometimes it's hard when you're in the thick of it to enjoy it. And then you feel guilty because you know it's flying by and you should be like soaking up every little moment, but like sometimes you can't. Especially this time, I was really afraid of postpartum depression, and for some reason I thought I was gonna have postpartum depression with Lincoln. And so like, I made sure to like express my like fear and anxiety of that with like my sister, one of my best friends, Michael. And I was just, you know, would say like, I'm afraid that this is gonna happen, like help me look out for it, because sometimes you can't see it when it's happening to you, and so you have to have like your team of people around you looking out for you. So I would say like, if you have any fears of that, voice those to those closest to you. A lot of questions about the transition from 1 to 2 kids. So first off, Theo has been a little champion. I'm hearing phantom cries. Theo has been a champion. I was so curious to see how he react to a baby, because he has literally hadn't seen another child except for like across the street or from a distance. Like, he'd never played with a child. he hadn't interacted up close with the child because of COVID. And so I'm like, is he even gonna comprehend it? He loved my belly. He loved hugging my belly, kissing my belly, like lifting up my shirt. But obviously I don't think he didn't understand what was in my belly. The first day we brought Lincoln home, I was really conscious of like how we introduced them to each other, that it wasn't like, this is your replacement, like why is mom holding this baby, what about me? We had Michael's parents bring Theo home while Lincoln was napping. We ate lunch together, just the three of us, Michael, Theo, and myself, and then we put Theo down for his nap. And so there wasn't like an abrupt change of like, there's this baby in my house. And so then we had it where Lincoln was on like a snuggle me on the couch. Neither Michael or I were holding Lincoln. And we're like, okay, like your new baby brother is here. Like we brought your baby home. And so we like showed him Lincoln. He was 18 months old at this point, and he couldn't have cared less. He was so indifferent. Like he didn't even want to like look at him, didn't want to touch him. And I'm like, well, that's sad. But I guess at least he's not trying to like hit him. Did not want to have anything to do with Lincoln that first day. And it like kind of broke my heart. But by like day 3, obsessed. Theo is obsessed with Lincoln, loves giving him hugs, kisses, snuggling him, always wants to hold him, always wants to like drag him across the floor. So that really surprised me. But overall, Theo is a champion. He does more so earlier on, and sometimes now like he does get frustrated when I'm like feeding him and I can't like do something for him or I can't play with him. So I try my best when like Lincoln's content or Lincoln's napping to give Theo quality one-on-one time, because sometimes when they're like throwing a tantrum or acting out, all they want is you to interact with them, you to like wrestle around with them, you to play like cars with them. And so I do try to give Theo like quality one-on-one time and not just fend for yourself, child. So that has helped a lot to be like, okay, like let's have some mommy Theo time and daddy can hold Lincoln, or Lincoln's fine playing over there on the floor by himself. Like, what would you like to play with? Sometimes he does like bite or scratch or hit him, but it's not because he's like frustrated with Lincoln. He's more just like testing his boundaries. Transition from 1 to 2 or 0 to 1, 100% for everyone is different, and I've heard both ways. But for me, the transition from 1 to 2 was so much easier than 0 to 1, which you wouldn't think that, but it was for me. How did you adapt with 2? I said this already, but like my biggest piece of advice that someone else gave me was to triage the situation. If everyone is like losing their minds and they're both crying and they're both screaming, is one of their needs more dire, or is something a quick fix? Early on, like nap times would just not like line up correctly, and so they'd both just be like losing their minds at the same time, and at that point it took a little bit longer to get Lincoln down. But I know Theo is such an easy kid to get down, so I would literally put Lincoln in a safe spot, try to give him his pacifier, leave him. He would be crying and screaming his head off, but I knew I could go in. And my little routine with Theo is put him in a swaddle, put his sound machines on, I sing him his like sleep song, and I put him in his crib, and I know he will fall asleep even if he like fusses or cries for a while. And then I can go back to the crying, screaming Lincoln and put him down, because I know he takes longer. Figure out how to do things differently and like what's quickest or what's most important. Having your house or having an area that's toddler proof, or maybe not like completely toddler proof, but like where they're not gonna like hurt themselves. If you're busy with the baby, the toddler or child is not going to like physically harm themselves. And I have found it's been so helpful to have a room where I can contain all 3 of us at the same time, so I can keep eyes on Theo. And even if he gets in the cabinets and makes a mess or whatever, like I can watch what he's doing. Someone asked, how did you figure out a schedule for Lincoln that coincide with Theo? You can't really, like sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. I think the most helpful thing is bedtime is the same for them at night. Like we try to get both of them down for sleep at 7. And sometimes Lincoln like needs to go to bed at like 6. And sometimes Lincoln is up till like 8:30 like he was last night. Theo is a little angel. He naps at the same time every day. He goes to bed at the same time every day. And he wakes up around the same time every day. And he eats around the same time. So like Theo's schedule is pretty set, and so I know like, okay, he needs to eat at these times, he needs to sleep at these times, and he's gonna go to bed at these times. And so it's more of like fitting Lincoln's schedule in around that. So if I know that nap time's coming up and I know I need to feed Theo and I know I need to get him down, like, okay, do I need to feed Lincoln now, or do I need to feed him after Theo goes down for his nap? So Lincoln is definitely more fit in between. But yeah, I would say as soon as you can get the newborn on more of a schedule, that just makes your life so much easier. Someone asked about like postpartum body, working out, getting back into shape. My workout is running around after a toddler, taking care of a newborn. I do like to go on walks with them in the afternoon. If it's nice out, it's raining right now. But that is a workout because I calculated the boys, the stroller, and the like infant car seat that Lincoln is currently in, that all totaled together is like 70 or 80 pounds. And pushing that around the neighborhood, there are hills, and it is, I'm sweating just like thinking about it. But that's the extent of my workout. Postpartum body. With Theo, I felt like, I mean, both boys, I felt like my stomach sucked back in pretty quickly, but the like toneness or firmness is definitely different. I feel like this time, I don't know how long it took for my like stomach line to go away after Theo, but I still have a bit of a stomach line. I have a couple like faint stretch marks, and my stomach's like not flat, but it's like also kind of like squishy. I'll show you my stomach because that's kind of the only remnant of my postpartum body at the moment. So leggings, I mean, I don't fit into my jeans or like denim shorts or anything. Like, it has to be stretchy if it fits. So like in leggings, it looks super flat, and overall I think it is pretty flat. So this is my stomach at the moment. The biggest thing is like my belly button, which I'll give you a close-up. Where my piercing was is like just weird skin now. I don't know if you can see, the line is almost faded, and then over here I have some stretch marks, but I'm pretty happy with my body. Obviously you always have your like insecurities, but I think being 9 months pregnant, 3 months ago, this is pretty darn good. The weirdest thing is this like bit of skin for my belly button. So like when I sit down and stuff, there's definitely like, I'm trying to like simulate sitting down, like definitely there's just like stuff here, but like whatever. I gave birth 3 months ago. Postpartum cycle and temp drop update. So I got the temp drop I think before even having Lincoln, and I'm not an every night user. Like, I'm still getting into the habit of wearing it every night, which is fine. Like, that's why I've started wearing it so soon, so I like make it into a habit. But a lot of people said that like the armband isn't comfortable, and I agree. Like, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. Like, you could definitely feel you wearing something, but you just have to find the where it's like tight enough to where it's not going to slip off, but loose enough to where it's not like cutting into your skin. A lot of people suggested that you can buy different types of like fabric armbands on Etsy, where you just slip the like little teardrop thermometer in, and so you replace the band completely. And someone suggested cutting off an end of a tube sock and said that held it on there just fine. So I'm not bothered enough by the armband to change it quite yet, but I think in the future I will. Cycle wise, my like temperatures are just like pretty consistently flat. The only spike I had was after my second Pfizer shot. So that's the only change in temperature I've had. It's just been consistently level and nothing's happened. No cycle updates other than like I do not have a cycle yet at 3 months postpartum. Okay, that was way too long and my throat hurts from talking so much. But yes, overall I feel good. I'm so excited to like get back into work. It's nice to like feel some semblance of normalcy after like it's turned on its head with a newborn. But it's all just a phase. You get through it, and yeah, it's great. And sometimes it's like, how am I a mom? How am I like 30 this year? Like, how am I married? How am I this old? I know I'm not, but I don't feel as grown up as I actually am. But that's what I have to say. Thank you for everyone that asked questions. I hope I answered them adequately. Thank you for watching my video. If you're not subscribed already, feel free to. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.